I would now like to invite Mr. Walter Jern and also Mr. Kenneth Howe to start the panel discussion with Professor Solnik.
Mr. Jung is, so what are the financial ramifications for the rest of the world in this? Is this an event that triggers yet another recession or depression if it implodes as maybe you're hoping it will sooner rather than later? I'm just wondering how this is going to affect the rest of the world, let alone Greece.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I trust politicians can mess it up quite well. What's going to happen? The euro will more or less disappear. Okay, so suddenly one morning, 1 peseta will be worth €1. They will do it. I mean, on Friday they will have all these optimistic statements, and then suddenly on Sunday evening we learn that, you know, they close the borders one way or the other, that suddenly every domestic euro in Spain is converted into 1 peseta. And then the ECB will try to help Spain to maintain the peseta-euro exchange rate to 1 for a while, and then, of course, it will devalue fairly quickly. Devaluation will be good for competitiveness of Spain. Now, the problem are all the contracts that have been written in euros. Okay, if you remember when basically Greece defaulted, the markets went up. Okay, and now Spain, Italy are a different order of magnitude. Governments will work it out one way or the other. The question to me, okay, but I mean, you're young. Some of the people here are younger. But I've lived in, when I was 15, 30, 40 even, I've lived in a world where, many countries, major countries, kept devaluing, where the dollar went up to 20, 30% and went down 20, 30%. So this is not an unusual situation. It is just an exchange rate adjustment. So exporters and importers are used to having the value of a foreign currency go up and down. So it's not a drama. It's a psychological drama, but on the real side, I'm not sure it's... But no politicians want to start it. So everyone was hoping that the Greek election in June, all my friends are hoping the Greek election in June would turn a government which would be anti-euro. They said, no, we want pro-euros. But they all were hoping that it would be an anti-euro government, even friends of the central bank. Because then no one would lose face. Okay, the Greeks do not want the euro. That's their desire. We kick them out of the euro. But then they elected a kind of a pro-euro government. I don't think it's going to be a major disaster. And all the central banks are still there. National central banks are still there. They used their own currency 10 years ago. I think software programmers and so on will be very happy. All the IT guys and financial consultants and Goldman Sachs and so on will be very happy. It's going to be good for the financial sector. But technically, it's not impossible.
Just wondering, just on a very micro level, where it affects ordinary people. Politicians, I understand they're politicians, but they're also leaders of their countries. And the effects that this can have can be sometimes very dramatic. I was in Mexico 30 years ago when they devalued the peso. And I was talking to a shop owner, and he just sold boots. And I asked him I understand what this effect would have on him. And he said, it's a disaster for me. I said, why? He said, well, okay, my loans are in US dollars. Mm-hmm. They're not in pesos. So all of a sudden, and that was a huge, devaluation, it was like 1 to 10. And so all of a sudden, he who was almost finished paying off the loans he had had for most of his generation now was underwater. And he had no hope of ever paying it off. And I'm just wondering, you compound that, with all sorts of other people, that's a pretty dramatic, I don't know how many people in Greece are, borrowing euros, and now we're going to have to pay back or do that exchange rate. But, if it were easy, I would think it would have been done
Maybe we should go back, see if the shop is still there.
Yeah, there we go.
All
There
right.
we go.
If it's still there, it probably means that he has upped his prices and improved productivity. If it's not there anymore, it's replaced by McDonald's. Probably means this was a restructuring that was needed. Yeah. I'm joking, of course, but you know, that's life. I mean, that's life. Soviet economy, you would sell goods forever at some artificial price.
I was then a currency derivative trader. I was running probably the largest position in my life, and this is in Thai baht. And as you all know, we're all triggered by Thai baht moving from almost like a core CPAC, and we actually repacked the currency, and the currency devalued more than 1/3. Okay, and the conclusion I will drive at is not the end of the world. Okay, in fact, Thailand survived quite well. Malaysia actually took a different route. They actually packed the currency, and they survived quite well. Indonesia was a bit messy, but they still come out okay. I mean, Indonesia, as of today, is one of the hottest countries in ASEAN. But I want to make reference to what Professor started doing his analysis on Greek. Okay, point number one: Greece is a small country. Thailand is also a very small country. As we speak, we don't see a lot of speculative fund or pressure on the euro. At that time, that was the opposite. There's a lot of speculative fund trading on Thai baht. You may not aware, Thai baht is against the US dollar is the largest foreign FX position among all the banks, because at that time there was a currency basket and people can easily do an arbitrage and earning 3 to 4% carry. The idea was Thai baht interest rate was at something like 7 to 8%, whereas US interest rate is at 3 to 4%. But you can easily hedge the currency risk with a very minimal like investment. So you are enjoying a carry as long as the pack survives. You're enjoying a positive carry of 3 to 4%. So that's why there's huge position and huge speculative position on the currency. Not quite applicable to the Greek case. I mean, Thailand, like a lot of ASEAN countries, are actually relying on short-term hot money to finance their long-term projects. So there's a structural readjustment mismatch, and that's caused a lot of problem. The pack broke. Okay, lots of people lose money, lots of people make money. One thing I cannot agree with more is, if the euro ever broke, okay, I'm not saying I'm subscribing to that notion, it will be a fantastic year for investment. In fact, if you look at the hedge fund performance going back the last 12 months, the couple of years after the market dislocation, they have the best performance. And this is usually the time that as an investor, particularly an institutional investor, you can do a lot of sizable position, use the leverage and whatnot. That's the best year to do an investment. So, so much for the history. Let's talk about current, and that go back to my talking point that I prepared. We are a small boutique merchant bank. Okay, we have offices in New York, London, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Singapore. So much for the marketing speech. But my marketing, I've been working with my London office on a lot of cross-border transactions. Particularly, there we have a lot of Asian investor interest to acquire so-called distressed asset in Europe. But deals are very difficult to close. It's fine in between. One, I don't think we have seen any fire sales happening in Europe yet, because what the politician willing to do is sell their crown asset at a slightly discount, rather than selling something totally distressed at 30 cents, because that may intrigue a lot of populace. The public will get very upset. They think the politicians are selling the nation's asset at a very cheap price. So what we've been seeing is, if you're talking about loans, okay, last time it was the best loan on the bank's book that was trading at LIBOR plus 20 basis points. Now it can be priced to LIBOR plus 400 with additional covenants, so a better credit wrapping. But you're not talking about buying 30 cents on the dollar on the asset. And another case in point is Portugal managed to sell 20% of EDP, their largest utility company, interesting enough, by a Chinese company, the Three Gorges, okay, which is one of the largest hydroelectric company in the world. Why the Chinese company are willing to to bid on their asset is they are quite interested in EDP's Brazilian operation. EDP, besides the domestic operation, actually run a very significant green energy business, and the asset in Brazil is quite sizable and very valuable, and that's why it attracted the Chinese investor. That sort of land on my second point. I mean, from an investor point of view, I think we need to distinguish between the sovereign risk and actually the underlying asset risk. I would expect a lot of the company, either company or even on a project level, that the credit rating will pierce the sovereign rating, or the value will actually trading better than the national debt. I think that will be a more opportunity than like the ETP coming up in the near futures. One more point on the on distressed asset. I mean, a lot of money has been so-called accumulated in the U.S. With the intention to invest it in the distressed asset in Europe, but that hasn't taken place yet because the currency risk is deemed too high. And for them, without a clear outlook on the currency, it's very hard to do a proper risk return evaluation. So I think the real money will only move in when we have a better, more clear signal on the currency. But I totally agree. Once things are getting clear, it will be a fantastic investment opportunity for other people. Yeah.